What's up, Purist? It's Bob from Purist Motorsports. Well, let's talk about the race car. It's possible that a lot of you who are new subscribers to the channel have not seen us do a video on this in a while. Just give you an update of where we are. This is a budget-minded, going racing build. Do intend to get this on the track, but in the last 8 months or so, maybe more, there have been a number of different things that have kept us from working on it. And this week, I was able to get the motor in it. Whew. And it's been a long road to that. There's several videos on the channel talking about this. One of the struggles is trying to make time for it outside of doing things for clients and that kind of stuff. So it's definitely something that I hope you can relate to. That's really why I'm telling the story, because it's more budget minded, and that's really what's keeping me from moving forward on it in a swift pace is finances, and I think everybody can relate to that. The car has a factory K member in it. The previous owner, Mr. Mike Cook, as you can see there on the windshield, actually had full maximum motorsport suspension. And due to my budget, I'm putting a factory K member in it. It's out of a 93. You can check out that video to talk about the differences of them. And there are a lot of mods you can do to them. We may, when budget allows, put the maximum motorsports K member in this, modify the K member, the stock K member that's in it, and maybe put it in that car. Because there's a few little tricks to do, and we can make it look completely factory and it be in that. So anyways, I think it's really the best way to say it is these cars are long in the tooth. Pretty much any suspension mod that you want to do, you can open a catalog and buy it and put it on it. These are well sorted. People know exactly what to do with them. And if I had the money, I could go through it and equip this car with every piece, from whether it's Griggs, Maximum Motorsports, Cortex. I mean, there's a number of different racing companies out there that are track proven with history to show you what these cars are capable of. That being said, these cars are not necessarily competitive in American iron with the modern chassis and all that kind of stuff. So the reality is that the newer technology is better, as it should be. But this car was inexpensive, and I wanted to learn how to go racing. Actually, I want to learn how to be a better driver. So that's the point of this. What we've done since the last time I posted about this, the motor was built and sitting on an engine stand. It is now mated to the transmission. Had a factory T5 to go with this. The motor itself is just a B303 cam with like Y302 heads. And I did some +3 or +4 pistons. I can't remember how many cc's, but it raises a compression. Went through the short block because found rust in it from it being sitting for a while. I think one of the intake, when I took the intake off, it's my fault. The intake leaked, water, and it went into one of the cylinders. Anyways, so I went through and rebuilt the short block, used a lot of the stock components, replaced the pistons, new rings, blah, blah, blah. And then safety is a big concern. It took a while, but made it up the transmission to the motor with a QuickTime bell housing. That's important to me. I think a friend of mine said when I was fussing about the price of it, he's like, so how important are your feet? Which is a good point. A lot of what I will probably moan and groan about on this car is all the safety stuff, and it's very important, and that's something I'm not going to skimp on. We do have a fuel cell for it that goes in it. It's the same type of fuel cell the original builder put in it, and it was not inexpensive, but the motor is in the car, and I have the factory front suspension. As you can see there's some factory control arms. Those are 94 to 04 control arms. I got them from the junkyard. The bushings are still good, although Delrin or other type of bushings would be great. But it needs new ball joints, which I will replace. But I pressure washed them to get rid of the grease and the grime and kind of, I don't know, make it look a little nicer. It is a race car. And then spritzed them with the roll bar black paint that you can buy at any auto parts store. But the big deal about it was getting it washed. It had been sitting in a chicken coop at a friend of mine's parents' house in South Carolina for a while. I could go through a long list of people who have helped get the car from North Carolina into Tennessee. Troy Raby is one of those people, and I greatly appreciate all that those have done for me to get it into the shop for me. And then put the motor in. I got the K-member in it. The K-member was a big deal to me. It took a lot of time to make sure the wheelbase was the same on both sides. Using suspension points, marking it on the floor, and making sure it's all going to be in alignment. I will have to do, if and when, it's not I think it's not if, when I get a road race K-member in it. I'm not sure what brand I would hope to do Maximum, because that's what was in it and that's what's in the rear suspension. But I'm hoping to be able to put that K-member in and then be able to align. I'll have to go through the alignment process again, and it's even more important with the aftermarket K-members, because the factory K-members kind of fall into place. They're slotted on one side, so it's to take into allow the frame rails can be a little bit wider in certain cars by, you know, a certain amount. There's a fudge factor that goes into the engineering of the cars that's an acceptable tolerance, as they say. So the factory K-members kind of bolt in, and it really fell in. I think one side, it was like an 1/8 of an inch difference, and I could just basically tap the K-member and push it, and it would take up that gap. So everything's aligned with that. The next steps are really going to be to try to get all the wiring and the fuel lines done. I've got to put the fuel cell in it, and really want to get to where the car is a roller soon. I've got all the suspension for it, but I really want to get it to where it's set up for a roller. But right now, the big deal was getting it washed and then putting this motor in it. As you can see, I actually scored a Downs upper. I think it's going to be great for the top end, but my mid-range power may suffer. We'll find out. I'm not really sure what. I know they're really good for supercharged applications, but this it may be overkill. We'll see. I think it could be said that people over-carburate, over-inject, put too big of an intake on a lot of the motors out there just to get a horsepower number. Guilty of that myself, obviously. But it's at the point where I put this in, and it really was, well, monkeying this in by myself was rather amusing. I should have removed a fender because my cherry picker only reached to like right here. And it was, well, if there were cameras in here, it probably would have been fun to watch the footage of me trying to wrestle this thing in. But it is sitting on casters and it moves, so I have to be careful. Probably won't get underneath it to work on it unless I put it on jack stands. I don't know, I'm just a big proponent of safety. But washing it, putting the motor in, and hopefully I'm gonna start getting all the accessories. I've got boxes on shelves. It would be nice to get this thing into roller status within the next couple of months. And the big thing is trying to get that one running. So stay tuned for a video on this one that's been sitting for about 10 years. It's a client car. So yeah, that's an 89 Saleen. But this one we're really gonna go road racing on. As you can see, the interior is in desperate need of getting done. There's a lot of details. I've got to get the gauges set up, steering column, and it's all, especially with the steering column, belts, and then the fire suppression, that stuff is not cheap. But the next step is to hopefully get all the suspension underneath it and be able to get it to where I can roll it. Something else I built for it were a set of taillights. I had some LX, I guess it was 83 to 86 taillights. They're not LX. The car had LX taillights in it from 87 to 93. And I had a set of 83 to 86 taillights laying around from a Mustang, and decided to make some 93 Cobra taillights out of it. That's as simple as masking things off and taping them. So I did a whole video on that. It actually has all the dimensions in it, so if you want to replicate that on your own, you can. I do recommend burnishing the edges of the tape because I had a little bleed through, but you know, you could take any set of 83 to 86 Mustang taillights and do what I did and turn them into the SVO 93 Cobra taillights. 85, 86, and 93 Cobra. 85, 86 SVO, and 93 Cobra use the gray trim, and that's what I chose to put on that. That's just my favorite taillight, next to the 79 to 82 Capri taillights. Probably my favorite all-time Fox taillight. Hoping to do a build with those taillights. I really want a set of those taillights. So if you know somebody that knows or has a really nice set of 79 to 82 Capri, I'd probably find a way to buy them because they're hard to find, because there's not many Capris from that era still around. The other is most of the taillights, because of their design, either chipped, broken, got cracks in them, and that kind of stuff. So I know there's one on eBay right now, and yes, I'm watching it. Just haven't pulled the trigger on it. But that's what I did. Yeah, I did that. I wanted 93 Cobra taillights on this. The reason I removed the LX taillights and put the 93 Cobra style or the 83 to 86 style on it is because they're lighter. Not by much, but when you go racing, every ounce counts, and why not? So that's what I did. I did score an 0304 Cobra steering rack, although I've been told, I don't know how true it is, that the steering racks from 99 to 04 are pretty much all the same except for the ratio, and then the lock to lock. I think the 0304 Cobras, there's a talk of it having a large intermediate shaft inside of it, larger, and then some people say it's the same as any of the 99 to 04s. I don't know for sure. I've never been inside of them, so maybe you could comment below and tell me. I don't know, other than people love the 0304 Cobra racks, and that's kind of why I gravitated to them, is because a lot of people put these in this car. The other thing I've got in this is there's a lot of rubber bushings. I've got urethane motor mounts, a urethane transmission mount, but right now, for now, being budget minded, I'm having to use just the factory stuff, which is still in good shape, in the steering rack and in the control arms. I would prefer Delrin or aluminum bushings, but for my budget, I'm just trying to get this to the racetrack, and then we'll make those small upgrades as we go, because I'll be honest, when I get on the track, even with the car the way it's set up now, it will be faster than I'm capable of driving it. And we're talking road racing, not drag racing. We're talking like where I live, it would be Road Atlanta, CMP, VIR, the new Corvette track over in Nashville, Tennessee, Bowling Green area. And there's a lot of tracks more than that that I'm not thinking of, but those are the ones that I'm gonna use, road racing, wheel to wheel. So we'll start, and well, let's follow along, because it's probably gonna be amusing when we get to where I'll probably break stuff, hopefully not wreck it, although it has had its moment into a tire wall before. The rear fender, you can see that that's kind of wrinkled up, somewhat repaired, but yeah, that's where we are. The big thing was getting the Downs forward upper, the motor in it, and the K-member aligned, and that's all done. and trying to make it as pretty as we can by painting the control arms. So stay tuned, we've got more coming from this as we get the suspension lined up and hopefully get it rolling around. And as always, whether you're driving them or restoring them, always enjoy them. Peace.